Oh, hello, great readers. I'm Belchan.
I'm Nimekung.
I'm Banchan.
In this class, I'll read to all of you. So, 18 of A Tale of Two Cities, Book the Second Golden Thread.
As.
Ah.
A Tale of Two Cities, Book the Second Golden Thread. Charles Dickens. Chap 18. The marriage day was shining brightly, and they were ready outside the closed door of the doctor's room, where he was speaking with Charles Darnay. They were ready to go to church. The beautiful bride, Mr. Ori, and Miss Prosto whom the event, through a gradual process of reconciliation to the inevitable, would have been one of absolute bliss, but for the yet lingering consideration that her brother Solomon should have been the bridegroom. And so said Mr. Ori, who could not sufficiently admire the bride, and who had been moving round her to take in every point of her quiet, pretty dress. And so it was for this, my sweet Lucy, that I brought you across the channel. Such a baby. Lord bless me. How little I thought what I was doing. How lightly I valued the obligation I was conferring on my friend Mr. You didn't mean it, remarked the matter of fact Miss Pross. And therefore how could you know it? Really? Well, but don't cry, said the gentle Mr. Or, I am not crying, said Miss Pross. And my Pross, by this time, Mr. Or dared to be pleasant with her. You will. Just now. I saw you do it. And I don't wonder at it. Such a present of plate as you have made him is enough to bring tears into anybody's eyes. There is not a fork or a spoon in the collection, said Miss Pross, that I didn't cry over last night after the Burkes came. I am highly gratified, said Mr. Worry. Though, upon my honour, I had no intention of rendering those trifling articles of remembrance invisible to anyone. Dear me, this is an occasion that makes a man speculate on all he has lost. Dear, to think that there might have been a mice slurry from this. Pause. You think there never might have been a mice the gentleman of that name? Poot rejoined Miss Pross, while observed Mr. Lurry, beamingly adjusting his little wig. That seems probable, oh for her. Bachelor, pursued Miss Pross. Then I think, said Mr. Lurry, that I was very unhandsomely dealt with, have had a voice in the selection of my baton. If, now, my dear Lucy, drawing his arm soothingly round her waist in the next room, and Miss Pross and I of business, that you wish to hear. You leave your good father, my dear, in hands as earnest and as loving as your own, taken every conceivable care of during the next fortnight. Warwickshire and thereabouts, even Tolson shall go to the wall, comparatively speaking, before him, and when at the fortnight's end your beloved husband on your other fortnight's trip in Wales frame. Now I hear somebody's step come into the door. Kiss my dear go with an old-fashioned bachelor blessing. For a moment held the fair face from him to look at the well-remembered expression on the forehead, as then laid the bright golden hair against his little brown wig, a genuine tenderness and delicacy which, if such things be old-fashioned, old as Adam, The door of the doctor's room opened with Charles Darnay. They went in. Told that no vestige of colour was to be seen in his face, but in the composure of his manner he was unaltered to the shrewd glance of Mr. Older of avoidance and dread had lately passed over him. But he gave his arm to his daughter, chariot which Mr. Rory had hired in honour of the day, followed in another carriage, and soon in a neighbouring church strange eyes looked on. Charles Darnay and Lucy Onette were happily married, glancing tears that shone among the smiles of the little group when it was done. Some diamonds, very bright and sparkling, glanced on the bride's hand, which were newly released from the dark obscurity of one of Mr. Lorry's pockets. They returned home to breakfast, and all Webwell Perescar were mingled with them again in the morning sunlight, threshold of the door at parting. It was a hard parting, not for long, but her father cheered her and said at last, gently disengaging himself from her enfolding arms, "Take her, Charles," agitated and waved to them from a chaise window, and she was gone, corner being out of the way of the idle and curious, having been very simple and few. The doctor, Mr. Lorry, Miss Prouse were left quite alone. Welcome shade of the cool old hall that Mr. changed to have come over the doctor, as if the golden arm uplifted there had struck him a poisoned blow. He had naturally repressed much revulsion might have been expected in him when the occasion for repression was gone, but it was the old scared lost look that troubled Mr. Lorry. One room when they got upstairs, Mr. Wine Shop keeper and the starlight ride. I think, he whispered to Miss Prouse after anxious consideration, I think we had best not speak to him just now, or at all disturb him. I must look in at Tolson's. I will go there at once and come back presently, then take him a ride into the country and down there from Mr. Lorry to look in at Tolson's. He was detained 2 hours. When he came back, the old staircase alone, having asked no question of the servant into the doctor's rooms, he was stopped by a low sound of knocking. God, he said with a start. Miss Prouse, with a terrified face, was at his ear. Oh me, cried she, wringing her hands. What is to be told to Ladybird? He doesn't know me. Mr. Lorry said what he could to calm her, and went himself into the doctor's room, like before, and his head was bent down, and he was very busy. Onette, my dear friend. The doctor looked at him for a moment half inquiringly, and he had laid aside his coat and waistcoat, the throat as it used to be when he did that work. Even the old haggard faded surface of face had come back to him. He worked hard and patiently, as if in some sense of having been interrupted. Mr. at the work in his hand, the old size and shape. He took up another that was lying by him, and asked what it was. A young lady's walking shoe, he muttered, looking. Well, it ought to have been finished long ago, but Onette, he obeyed in the old mechanically submissive manner. His book, you know me, my dear friend. Think again. Not your proper occupation. Think nothing would induce him to speak. Nor, he looked up for an instant at a time to do so, but no persuasion would extract a word from him. He worked in silence on him as they would have fallen on in a cold swell air. The only ray of hope that Mr. Lorry could discover, what? That he sometimes furtively looked up without being asked. In that, doubts in his mind. 2 things at once impressed themselves on Mr. Lorry as important above all others. The first, from Lucy. The second, knew him in conjunction with Miss Prouse. that a precaution by giving out that the doctor was not well. A few days of complete rest, practiced on his daughter, Miss Pross was. To write called away professionally lines in his own hand, same post. These measures advisable to be taken in any case, Mr. Lorry took in the hope of his coming to himself. Soon he kept another course in reserve, which was certain opinion that he thought the best on the doctor's case, of his recovery and of resort to this third course being thereby rendered practicable. Mr. Lorry resolved to watch him attentively, possible of doing so, the first time in his life the same room, to speak to him since. On being pressed, he became worried. He abandoned that attempt on the first day, always before him fullen or was fulling. He remained, therefore, at the window, reading and writing ways. As he could think of that, it was a free place. To quote, was giving him tea and drink and worked on first day, until it was too dark to see worked on after Mr. Lorry could not have seen for his life or right. When he put his tools aside as useless until morning, Mr. Lorry rose and said to him, either side of him in the old manner, looked up in the old manner, and repeated in the old low, but yes, for a walk with me. He made no effort to say why not more, but Mr. Lorry thought he saw on his bench in the disk head in his hands that he was in some misty way asking himself why not. The sagacity of the man of business perceived an advantage here, determined to hold it. Miss Pross and he divided the night into 2 watches and observed him at intervals from the adjoining room for a long time before he lay down. But lay himself down, he fell asleep. In the morning, bedims and went straight to his bench and to work. On this second day, Mr. Lorry saluted him cheerfully by his name on topics that had been of late familiar to them. A returned no reply, but it was evident that he heard what was said. Thought about it, however, confusely. This encouraged Mr. Parson with her work several times during the day at those times. They quietly spoke of Lucy and of her father then present, in the usual manner and as if there were nothing amiss. Fun, without any demonstrative accompaniment, not long enough him and it. Light and Mr. Oftener surrounding him, when it fell dark again. Mr. Lorry asked him as before, the doctor as before. He repeated, "Es me," this time. Mr. extract no answer from him, and after remaining absent for an hour, returned. In the meanwhile, window and had sat there looking down at the plane tree, but Mr. Lorry's return, he slipped away to his bench, slowly on end. Mr. Lorry's hope darkened again and grew yet heavier and heavier every day, and went the 4th, the 5th. 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, 8 days, 9 days, with the hope ever darkening, with a heart always growing heavier and heavier. Mr. Anxious time. The secret was well kept, and Lucy was unconscious and happy, but he could not fail to observe that the shoemaker, being a little out at first, was crowing dreadfully skilful, had never been so intent on his work, been so nimble and expert as in the dusk of the 9th evening. To be continued.